Phillip Aziz was an art teacher living in Toronto who passed away from an AIDS-related illness in 1991. Due to the stigma related to HIV, he lived alone and secluded until in the final years of his life, Phillip found the love and acceptance he needed within the caring community of Church in the City. He bequeathed his estate to them, requesting his gift would begin a hospice offering the same type of unconditional love he received for others living with a life-limiting illness. This is their story, told from the perspective of those who choose to come alongside them on their journey and support them through to the end.
Funnily enough, I didn't really think it would make that much of a difference at all. It was just a quick thought that I had that might help my current client out a little. He went back into the hospital for an operation, and he's terrified of the hospital. And he has 2 cats, which are like his family. They're his whole life. I decided, well, you know, I have a camera. Why not just film the cats for about an hour? And then when I go to visit him in the hospital, I can go take the film, and it can kind of like being like having the cats there. Took me an hour. Wasn't really that big a deal. But I mean, when I played the camera back for him, and I just saw the look of, I think, for shock on his face, and then just, it was kind of like he had a little bit of his family there with him. It was so obvious that it meant the world to him, and I mean, all I did was just push record.
Well, my first experience with PAC was at a church service I was attending, and announcement was made that they were looking for volunteers who would go into people's homes in the community. For me, I had never really considered that there could be people in our city with life-limiting illness at home and be on their own.
I first heard about PAC from a staff member of the Phillip Aziz Center, and I wasn't sure it was for me. I am not the most sensitive person, and asked her if I took the course, would I be able to just take the course and not actually volunteer if I didn't feel it was for me.
I thought when I started I would just be going to help somebody, and I thought of it very mechanically. I'm going to be doing somebody's dishes or maybe buying groceries, or I didn't realize it's really going to be about a relationship with another human being.
When I started with PAC, I found that there was a great diversity of clients. I personally have had clients from young children, teenagers, middle-aged people, and the very, very elderly.
My first client was a woman who was just a couple of years older than me, a single mom like me. Her son was just a year older than my son, and it really hit close to home because of the actual circumstances, but also the concerns that she had. There were concerns that I would have.
My first client was a 3-year-old boy who actually was the size of a 6-month-old, and when I held him, his body was actually so twisted that it actually kind of just surrounded my body. And I remember just being able to look down at him, and when I saw his big eyes looking at me, and he was so full of life, even though he couldn't express it, he just had this complete trust that I would take care of him. And it was just an honor to be able to just be that support system for him for that time.
I had one client who, his condition got really bad and he wasn't able to really move in his bed at all. One day I came into his room and he'd been getting slowly better over time, but still hadn't been able to move in his bed. And he said, "Taylor, watch this." And I walked over, and he sat up and swung his legs around the bed, and I was worried. I thought he was going to fall off, and I went to catch him, but he was fine. And just seeing the human spirit, seeing him able to, in all this like pain, all this things in life that are going wrong, he was able to push through and work at sitting up for weeks. He'd been sitting up for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour.
I had been working all day. I had just come out of a teacher's meeting, and I knew that I was supposed to see my client tonight. And I went to see her, and she asked if we could go shopping. And I said, "I'm sorry, I just can't. I'm so exhausted today." And then I thought to myself, I can't. I can't. Of course I can. And I said, "Yes, let's go."
So we were walking around, and it was like a rooftop patio type thing. So we were walking around, and she turned to me and she said that she was considering euthanasia. And I turned to her and I said, "Well, you just don't know what will happen, because the doctors are not always right. And for you to do that, you just don't know. They might not be right even at how painful it could be. There might be ways to manage that pain that it isn't as bad as you might think it is." So she didn't go through with it. And a year or so later, she's still alive.
Considering the ripple effect, I would say that it affects you, and not just you, but other people in your life more than you know. If not just simply from the fact that people see you committing yourself to 4 hours a week, helping somebody in need, can inspire them to do the same.
It's really quite amazing. I remember one client I had who ended up being in the hospital the day of my shift. And so I went to the hospital to see him, and I was greeted by his mother. His family had come from out of province to see him, and I was greeted by his mother, and she said, "Oh, hi, you must be Lois. We knew you were coming. He told us you would come." That really amazed me, because it was such an important thing that someone from Phillip Aziz shows up at his house, that even though he was in the hospital, he knew I would still come on that night. And obviously he had talked about it to his family.
My client is a very outgoing guy and well known in his community. So becoming his friend and his companion over these last number of years has meant becoming part of his community. That was not something I went into PAC thinking would happen. I thought I'd be going out once a week and helping somebody. And instead it's become a very rich friendship and community building, I think, for all of us. And that's a really rich experience. It's the relationships. It's just going, knowing that I'm going to meet somebody and share their life with them.
Financially, I don't really have a lot, but definitely I do have time. So just giving my spare time to others and knowing it means a lot to them.
They're not asking that much of your time, whether it's watching TV, washing the dishes, helping them with the laundry, whatever, but just means so much to these people.
Every week even, you may do something completely different, but you're doing something that benefits that family as a whole.
The giver really gets more than anyone else.
That people would allow you in their final stages of their life to welcome you into their life. That's just such a privilege, and I'm honored to be a part of that.
It's service and it's ministry, and that's why I personally do it.
Knowing that you're doing something that you should be doing is a great thing, and maybe it doesn't always work out right, maybe you don't always do it perfectly, but in the end, knowing that you're trying to do something that you should be, and that it's something that's valuable and worthwhile, why wouldn't you?
Love is patient, love is kind, love's forgiving, but baby, love's not blind. Love is fearless, love is sure, when all else fails you, love endures.
Here at the Phillip Aziz Center, we've seen what started as one man's dream become reality every day. Now PAC is expanding into children's residential hospice care with Emily's House, the first of its kind in Toronto and one of 6 in Canada. Named in honor of Emily Yescu, one of our courageous clients representing hundreds of children and their families facing similar challenges daily. We need your help because people end up at PAC with little or no other support. At PAC, we believe no one should face a serious illness alone. With your help, we sincerely believe no one will.